Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Dargan and welcome to my YouTube channel on money, entrepreneurship, and life hacks. In this video, I'm going to share with you 6 tips on how I survived on less than $30K in Washington, D.C. I'm going to cover everything from housing options all the way to how to live off of free stuff like breakfast, lunches, and dinners. Think the meal trifecta. So pay close attention because I'm going to share with you how you can not only survive but thrive in one of the most expensive cities in the United States. Now before we get started, if you find this video helpful, go ahead and click that like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel to learn more on money, entrepreneurship, and life hacks. Don't forget to also grab your favorite drink. This week, I have a pineapple cocktail and be ready to learn on how to survive on less than $30K in Washington, D.C. Cheers! Los Angeles is known for the entertainment industry, New York is known for Wall Street and finance, and Washington, D.C. is known for the federal government. And as you guys know, working in public service is not the most financially lucrative job. After college, I was interested in working in the legislative branch, and as all congressional staff salaries are public knowledge, it's no secret that I started off making $28K. Since DC is an expensive city and my salary did not reflect the cost of living, I had to hustle my first couple of years. I do want to emphasize that even with a low salary, you are still able to thrive living in DC. You just have to be smart about what financial priorities are important to you. For instance, would you rather have a luxury apartment, or would you rather have extra money and be able to go out with friends on the weekends and build a savings? For me, I chose the latter. It's important to me to live a quality life. I did not, I repeat, did not live a cheap life sacrificing fun. Instead, I found financially savvy ways in order to live my best life in DC. And now I'm going to share with you the 6 tips on how you can too. First tip is to budget, budget, budget. Set a budget. Working on the house side, you find out that you only get paid once a month. That's right, once a month. I have heard that on the Senate side you get paid twice, but that said, you need to be sure that if you're getting paid once a month, you are planning your spending for the entire month, or you may find yourself struggling those last few days to get to the next paycheck. Whether you get paid once or twice a month, it's important for you to have a budget and know what you're spending on. For help on how to budget, check out my Budget Like a Pro video. It will break down how much you should be spending and how to prioritize your expenses. Based on my budget allocation, my breakdown was $1,000 on needs such as rent and utilities, $600 on wants like going out and doing happy hours and a Netflix subscription, and $400 on savings, debt, and retirement. Keep in mind that I had free transportation because working on Capitol Hill you get Metro benefits. And while I had student loans, I was able to get that covered because of the student loan repayment program on Capitol Hill. If you're curious to learn more about these perks, check out the link at the top on the 8 financial secrets of working in Congress. Once I had my target breakdown, I sat down at the beginning of each month and listed out all my expenses. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to do this, and it is well worth your time. First, I set aside the needs and savings, debt, and retirement category of money where I paid for the rent, utilities, set aside money for grocery, and all the essentials that I need to make sure get paid with my salary at the beginning. Then, with the money that was left over, I set 2 benchmarks, one on the 15th and one on the 1st of the next month, because I wanted to make sure that I was able to allocate and space the amount of money that I made for the entire month so I wasn't finding myself struggling to make it to the next paycheck. These benchmarks were a quick check, took only a minute, to make sure that in my savings account I had enough money to last me to the end of the month. For someone who needs more benchmarks, I suggest doing a benchmark on the 10th, the 20th, and then the 1st of the next month, just to make sure that you're able to space out the money that you earned and not run out towards the end and struggle until the next paycheck. In looking at my budget breakdown, you must be wondering, how did I keep my needs section, rent, utilities, and groceries, under $1,000? I'll get to that next. Tip number 2, find livable and inexpensive housing. To be honest, living in DC is expensive. And sure, you can live in Virginia or Maryland, but To be honest, my friends who did that, they never really came back into the city to go to brunches on Saturdays or go to dinner parties on the weekends. There's just something about living in another state that really has a mental block, and I can't quite put my finger on it, no matter how close the actual distance is. So you really want to consider that when you're thinking about where you want to live. It may be more affordable the farther that you go outside the city. You just have to really factor in the commute and whether or not you're going to be hanging out there for fun or if you're really going to travel back into DC. Let's first look at these swanky DC apartment complexes and see how much they cost. At the Market on O building in Northwest DC by the Convention Center Shaw area, a studio apartment costs more than $1,500, and a one-bedroom at a little over 500 square feet costs over $1,900. Then in Capitol Yard, Southeast DC, a one-bedroom, one-bath is $1,535 for 752 square feet. Compared to Market on O, that's not that bad. Long story short, all those options were just out of my price range. If I'm supposed to be spending less than $1,000 on rent, utilities, and groceries, I can't afford all these luxury fancy places. I mean, unless I guess I want to starve myself and not eat. But let's be real, I love food too much, so hard pass. The best way that I found to keep rent down and find inexpensive yet livable housing, if you're open to it, is to get a roommate or housemates in DC. Now, if you prefer to live on your own, there is affordable housing. Just remember that there's going to be additional income requirements and restrictions if you decide to go that route. For all my time in DC, I lived in group houses. It's like a rite of passage to live in a DC row house. Most friends I know have lived in a row house with either 2 to 4 housemates, and while we each had our own separate bedrooms, we just shared the common spaces. It was nice to come home after a long day of work and just hang out with some of my friends, get a glass of wine, and maybe cook dinner with each other. I will be the first to admit that living in a DC row house does come with its unique experiences. Many DC row houses have character. And what that means is the house is old. And so when you're looking at possibly AC or heat efficiency, that may not be the case. Or the floorboards creak. You just have to keep that in mind when you're looking at these options. So while row houses may have character, the best thing about them is that they're really affordable. My first row house that I lived in was only $675 a month in Northwest DC, in a great neighborhood. And so that gave me an extra $325 to spend on utilities and groceries and anything else that I wanted. I'll be honest, there are definitely pros and cons when you live with housemates. There are trade-offs, and only you know yourself when it comes to living with others. So really think about whether or not a group home is good for you. I've had my ups and downs. Communal living can be unpredictable. It's like winning the roommate lottery. Sometimes you get amazing, fantastic roommates who you do barbecues with, have wine nights with, cook dinners with. Shout out to my 1407 and 121 crews. Other times, you may live with a not-so-pleasant human who you actively avoid like the plague, or in modern times like the coronavirus, and it is what it is. The good news is that if you have extra housemates, then you can choose to hang out with them, and that makes up for it. Life isn't perfect, and so you just gotta go with the flow. Cheers to that, right? Heads up, finding these affordable spots may be difficult. I mean, inexpensive rent, in addition to prime location, and of course it's going to be very competitive and popular. So what you want to do is to look at Craigslist, or if you're at work, ask around and do the DC thing. There may even be a listserv where they post some of these openings that you can learn about early. I will let you know that it is highly competitive, and I myself have been to 5 or 7 group home showings in one weekend before I even found a place to live. And so stick at it, be patient, but I'm telling you it's going to be way worth it if you can find it. Good luck on your search. While I may not have lived in the fanciest luxury apartment, I did have a very comfortable and chic place to live. I mean, check out my room in the last row house that I lived in. And to be honest, the money that I was able to save really went a long way, especially with my limited budget. Tip number 3 is to meal prep for the week. It may be a no-brainer, but it will help you save a lot of money instead of doing takeout or dining out every day. If you're planning on meal prepping, I have 3 recommendations to help you get creative with what you're eating and not just to eat the same exact thing every day for a week, because that gets boring and who wants that? My first recommendation is to get yourself an Instapot. It saves you time and it is a dream machine. I have the 6-quart one and I'll include the link below in the description just because it helps me cook in large batches and I'm able to spread it out throughout the week. It really saves time and it helps me get creative in the different recipes that I cook. The second recommendation is to make fancy pasta. You can make large batches of pasta and really spice it up. If you don't just want plain red sauce, then maybe add some beef to it and make a bolognese. Or you can get pesto and add chicken to that and have a pesto chicken pasta. Or if you're craving some seafood, get an Alfredo, add some shrimp and broccoli, and then you can have a shrimp Alfredo. There are many ways to do this where you can still have variety and satiate your taste buds. You don't have to give up on quality just because you're trying to save money. My third recommendation is to BYOL. Bring your own lunch. It will save you a ton of money instead of needing to go out and buy lunch every day. And obviously, if you're like me, you like to have snacks. So bring your own bag of chips or some carrot bites because that will help you save a lot of money if you're not going out to buy that at work. Tip number 4, wait for it. Take advantage of happy hours. DC is a happy hour city, and so if you're sociable and want to hang out with your friends, the best way to do it while saving a dime or two is to go to happy hours. What's also nice about it is that there could be late night happy hours where you can hang out with friends with a great menu. You and your wallet will thank me later. Cheers to that! Tip number 5 is to get a side hustle. If your full-time salary just isn't cutting it and covering the costs that you need or your lifestyle, then maybe consider getting a second job to help supplement that. What I did in DC is I had done some babysitting. Put some kids to sleep and get paid for it? Sign me up. And so what's nice is that gave me some extra cash in order to go to brunches and hang out with friends on the weekends and be able to pay for those extra activities. Other friends that I know have done retail, been barbacks or bartenders at restaurants and bars, and they found other means in order to supplement their income just so that they can make it through. Don't be afraid to take that second job. It can help supplement your lifestyle and enable you to afford some of the things that you want but may not be able to afford on your regular salary. Last but not least, let's get into the free stuff. You heard it right. Free, 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 free. Tip number 6, get on the reception circuit. That can be your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, the meal trifecta. And what's great is this is something that you have to look forward to in the post-COVID life when receptions come back. If you live in DC, you know what I'm talking about. It's called reception hopping, and it's when a person or a group of people go from one reception to another to say hi to industry contacts and make their rounds. In the pre and hopefully post-COVID world, during the weekdays when Congress is in session, there are usually receptions hosted by organizations that come to Washington, D.C. to help raise awareness on the issues that they are advocating for. These receptions are great for multiple reasons. First and foremost is networking. DC is built on networking and relationships. When you go to these events, you not only learn new information about various issues, but you meet people who are interested in the same issues as you. What's awesome too is that it can lead to potentially your next opportunity and role. I've been fortunate enough in that one of the events I just showed up at and started meeting new people, looking at you, Rhiannon, met the director of the Congressional App Challenge, where we ended up hitting it off, and that led to my next role in working on a nonprofit initiative after I left the Hill. Another great perk about receptions is their free food. In addition to networking, they typically serve bites to eat, and it can range anywhere from a meat, cheese, and veggie platter all the way to hors d'oeuvres like bacon wrapped scallops and crab cake cheese bites and burger sliders. Oh, I'm just getting hungry thinking about it. And what's awesome is if you're just getting off of work and need to go to more work, aka reception and networking, then this reception food can replace dinner. There are also educational briefings that typically happen during breakfast and lunch. And so you can go learn something new and get free food. Sometimes you can hit the meal trifecta where in one day you can do a breakfast briefing, a lunch briefing, and then a dinner reception, and then you don't even have to take care of your food for the day. How awesome is that? And if you're at least 21, most of these receptions serve free drinks. It could either be wine and beer, or some of them serve liquor cocktails. It just depends on who the host organization is. I'll drink to that and finish the rest of this. You definitely want to be in the know when these events happen. So make sure you get on listservs or newsletters that curate the list of events so that you don't miss them and know when they're happening. Currently during COVID, there's no receptions, but in the post-COVID world, you best make sure that you get on that list. From budgeting all the way to the reception circuit, those are my 6 tips on how to thrive living your best life in DC, making less than $30K. And if you found this video useful, go ahead and click that like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel to learn more on money, entrepreneurship, and life hacks. Also, if you know somebody who started working in DC and is maybe not making a lot of money, go ahead and share this video along. Other than that, see you in the next video. Oh, and if you're interested in watching more, check out these other videos that I made. Promise you, you'll learn something new. Bye!